Hey, if we could all take our seats, we're going to go ahead and get the debate started. Thank you very much. We'll get started here in a minute.
Come on up. You can have the candidates come up. Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Marvel. I'm president of the San Diego Police Officers Association. On behalf of the association and the rest of tonight's co-sponsors, I want to thank you for attending tonight's District 3 Forum. I'd like to also thank the sponsors, the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, San Diego Downtown Partnership, the LGBT Weekly, North Park Community Association, Hillcrest Town Council, and the Gaslamp Quarter Association for supporting this event with us. I'd also like to thank the two candidates, Anthony Bernal and Chris Ward, for their willingness to participate in this evening. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Tom Senzi. Tom is an award-winning Southern California journalist and an 18-year veteran of print, online, and broadcast media, having served as editor of the LGBT Weekly, as law reporter for the Los Angeles Business Journal, the Valley Edition, as managing editor of the Los Angeles' largest community news bi-weekly, the North Valley Community News. Tom is a regular contributor to the Advocate News Magazine, San Diego Reader, Huffington Post, and various other newspapers, magazines, and television news programs. And he was recently elected to the San Diego Press Club Board of Directors. Tom?
Hi, good evening, welcome. I'm Tom Senzi, I'm tonight's moderator. I would like to thank the San Diego Police Officers Association for providing this and the Old Globe Theater for providing this legendary venue. The thoughts and prayers of San Diegans continue to be with our neighbors to the north in the wake of the tragedy in San Bernardino, as well as with the brave law enforcement officers on the front lines in the battle to stop gun violence and terrorism. Tonight, we're going to hear our candidates tell us directly their thoughts on a number of issues throughout our community. We'll also have the opportunity to hear from our sponsoring groups who will be helping me tonight in asking the questions. Tonight's format is as follows. We will begin with a 2-minute opening statement by each candidate. Then we will move into the question period. Each of our sponsoring groups will then have a chance to come up and introduce themselves, followed by the asking of 2 questions. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. If I detect that one candidate has attacked the other or criticized the other, the candidate who was criticized will have the opportunity to respond for 30 seconds. After each group asks their questions, we will move on to a 2-minute closing statement by each candidate. And as a note, up front is an individual holding a yellow card and a red card, which indicate that there are 30 seconds remaining, and when the candidate runs out of time. So we'll go ahead and open it up. We'll just go in alphabetical order, I guess. We didn't flip a coin or anything. We'll start with Anthony, if you'll come up and give us your, do you want to go over to that mic over there? Or actually, I think we're doing it over here. Yeah, we're over here. I'm sorry. Please.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Thank you so much to the Police Officers Association, the Old Globe Theater, and everyone for being here. My name is Anthony Bernal, and I'm running for San Diego City Council District 3. Growing up, I loved a strong sense of community in my neighborhood. And as a public servant today, I'm building that same spirit of cooperation in all the neighborhoods of District 3. City Hall should work for you. And when I'm elected, I will create a new level of service across city government. As your council member, I will deliver results for you. Growing up, my parents taught me the value of hard work and a good education. My mother was a farm worker in the Central Valley. My father was a grocery store clerk. Together, they strived to provide a better life for me. I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. And one of the first jobs I took was with an organization by the name of El Concilio, the Council for the Spanish-Speaking. And I was a project manager. A short time thereafter, I was hired by a local civil engineering construction management firm. And with this experience, I learned to have a passion for our neighborhood infrastructure. I believe that making sure that we have an efficient city government is really important. I've served on the Human Rights Campaign San Diego Steering Committee. I'm a founding member of the Cortez Hill Active Residence Group and a member of the Pure Water San Diego Working Group. Since 2008, I've been working alongside Councilmember Todd Gloria as his Director of Business and Community Projects. I have a track record of producing results for our neighborhoods. I've focused on creating safe, clean streets and improving our city's infrastructure. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Anthony. Next up, we have Chris Ward.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I also want to thank you for taking your time on a December Monday night to come join us and hear a little bit about the campaign. My name is Chris Ward. I'm also a candidate for City Council here in the 3rd District. Of course, many of you all know the 3rd District is all the wonderful neighborhoods that surround Balboa Park, where we all are today. And for the last 20 years, many of you, like me, that have been in these neighborhoods have seen the immense growth and revitalization and excitement that's happened in these neighborhoods, and I think that trend is continuing. And I think that experience is largely due to the leadership that we've had in the 3rd District. It started with Christine Kehoe in 1993. It was followed by Tony Atkins, and most recently with Todd Gloria. In these past 24 years of leadership that these 3 individuals have made their mark in the district, here we are today, next year in 2016, facing the question, who is going to be able to take that trend of leadership and extend the needs of the district and the business of the city forward? I'm very excited for the past work that I've been doing that I think has well prepared me for this office. For my time in the community as an elected member of the Uptown Planners Community Planning Group, as well as the roles that I've had on nonprofit boards of directors here that provide services right here in our community, as a taxpayer advocate for the San Diego Community College District's Bond Oversight Committee, and of course as my role as a legislative chief of staff. I have been there working in the community, working for you for the last 7 years, already managing an office of 12 individuals to provide legislative excellence and constituent services. And I think that one thing that I offer that is very important to the job is that deep knowledge of how we connect state, federal, regional resources. I have those relationships, our nonprofit partners, to be able to provide the solutions to some of the complex issues that face the district. And I'm looking forward to all the questions that we have tonight. I know we have a wonderful range of co-sponsors for this event, and I'm going to look forward to hopefully earning your support too. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chris. Let's go ahead and open the floor to our sponsors for their questions. First up, we have the San Diego Police Officers Association, Vice President Jeff Jordan. And I guess there we go. That mic where Jeff is headed right now is where the questioners will come and present their issues.
Good evening, everyone. Gentlemen, one of you is going to be elected. And once elected, you will face issues with an SDPD that will include crime increases moving towards double digits, crumbling facilities, a recruiting and retention crisis that has continued unabated, removing hopes from overwhelmed SDPD officers that a new labor agreement will improve department staffing. In sum, officers are losing faith in their leaders, and they want to know how they're supposed to focus on the citizens' needs when their own needs aren't being met. How will you address these issues?
Anthony, you want to go ahead and answer that
Sure.
first?
Great. Good question. One of the things that I do each and every week is work with our police department out in the field. What I have done over the last 2 years is create a community problem-solving meeting with the team at Central Division. And with that, since there's so many issues involved in downtown, which is a neighborhood I've been focused in on, is that we try to look at all the different variables that go into solving these problems. And I will tell you that the police officers believe that they're stretched extremely thin. We got to make sure that we have the correct recruitment tools necessary to bring more officers on the force. And not only that, we need to make sure that we have the officers be retained and have competitive salaries, so that way those officers do not leave to another area. The last piece I will say is that the police officers are the ones that are the first responders on every situation. And they deal with everything and anything that comes their way. And we as citizens need to make sure that they are taken care of, not only during their service, but in their retirement.
And
Chris Ward.
unfortunately, the list does not stop there. We have to be a caretaker for Balboa Park. We have to work on a lot of the neighborhood density and growth issues that I think we're facing those pressures on. But first and foremost, as a council member, our responsibility is definitely to protect public safety. I know that not just because of the people that we talk to out in the neighborhoods that are concerned, and we're reminded of that when we hear the SWAT team coming in to work on an issue in Bankers Hill, when we're worried about the women that are attacked in North Park, when we're worried about businesses and homes being broken into in Mission Hills. People are reminded on a daily basis that we care for our police officers, and we want to make sure that we have, as council members, we're reflecting those values of our constituents in the decisions that we make, be they budgetary or policy or otherwise. So what I can do is is to take that will of the voters and make sure that all the decisions that we're making provide for more competitive compensation packages, work with the budget that we have that we're given by the voters and by the revenue that comes into the city of San Diego, prioritize public safety so that our police officers, but also our firefighters and our lifeguards and first responders have the resources that they need to do their job. I would also add it's more than compensation, and I've been on many ride-alongs, and I think one thing that we have going for us that you can't buy is most of the officers, all the officers that I have talked to, love working for San Diego PD. They love the city, they love the workforce, they love the leadership that we have here. So the interest is there. We just need to make sure that we as decision makers are giving them the tools so that they are appropriately compensated, that they are well respected for the work that they're doing, which in turn I think will meet the number one priority for our constituents' needs.
Thank you. Another question?
Next question. Proposition B frees the salary for existing police dispatchers and other civilian staff and has eliminated pensions for future employees. Its impact has been devastating to San Diego PD. Safety is being jeopardized by not having the staffing to handle 911 calls in a timely manner and raising concerns from officers about getting critical information from communications when they need it. To undo the staffing crisis intensified by Proposition B, would you vote in favor for providing pensionable pay raises to employees responsible for public safety to our citizens before the proposition expires in 2018?
Let's let Chris Ward go first on this one.
To the extent that our resources allow, absolutely. You know, as decision makers, we have to balance certainly these priority needs with so many of the other things that you, the voters, ask us as council members to weigh in our decision making. But to the extent that we can with our revenues, absolutely. I want to make sure that we are having competitive compensation packages that will allow officers to feel well respected, but also allow them to be retain employment here with the San Diego PD. Proposition B, and of course, you know, I will respect the will of the voters, and the voters have spoken, and they want us to make sure that that is implemented as was placed on the ballot. There could be some legal challenges that, if they were ultimately successful, would throw that out and might throw the question back to decision makers on how we're going to reform or provide a different level of compensation package in the future. So that might come up in the next term, and I would really look forward to working with all partners like the POA and like the MEA and like other other stakeholders within the city and members of the public about what a better package could be. You know, we were sold, the voters were sold that Proposition B, we were going to be able to protect city resources, that we were going to be able to do a better job with the dollars that you're giving us. And unfortunately, a lot of other cities did not follow suit. We're the only jurisdiction here in the county of San Diego that offers the kind of compensation packages that are lesser than competing jurisdictions, which is the situation that we're in today.
Thank you, Anthony.
I did not support Proposition B when it was first brought forward, but I will respect the will of the voters. And I believe that we need to work and build the trust with the police department to say, at the end in 2018, we will take care of you, and if given the budget constraints that we may or may not have in that time, there is a brighter future for the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Brunel.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next questioner is former mayor, San Diego Mayor Jerry Sanders, who is the CEO of the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. It's quite a bookend. I am happy to be here representing the chamber. We're the largest chamber on the West Coast, and we have about 2,500 members, which represents about 300,000 employees. And our goal is to make San Diego the most business-friendly environment in California. And with that in mind, the first question, since both of you are heavily involved in this, please explain your position on the funding solution for the convention center expansion. And do you prefer contiguous or non-contiguous expansion?
Mr. Brunel?
I prefer a contiguous convention center expansion. The industry has spoken and spoken loudly that they would also prefer a contiguous space. I believe that the voters need to vote on a TOT increase, and that's the best way for us to fund the convention center.
Just if we can, with jargon, I know most people are politically savvy, but abbreviations and so on, if we could just say what we, just in case there's any novices. So
Great.
like
So the TOT is a tourism occupancy tax.
So, Jerry, thank you for the question. I also prefer a contiguous expansion. Expanding our convention center in any form is going to be able to provide us more competitive opportunities to bring larger conventions. We know the pressures that the convention industry and our tourism industry is facing because of the constraints that we have in our facility. We're the 8th largest city in the United States. Our convention center is 22nd largest in space. So we do lose out to a lot of economic opportunities that, and frankly, a convention is actually what brought me to San Diego in the first place almost 20 years ago. I was here for what then was one of the largest conventions that the Phase 2 had just been built. It was the Society for Neuroscience Conference. I won't tell you how I transitioned from that to government, but I know how that brought me here. It brought so many other wonderful San Diegans here today that have gotten involved in their community, and so I want to make sure that we have the opportunities to have an appropriate facility. I won't rule out a non-contiguous expansion if that's the way that everything shakes out in the end. I'd like to see all that we can do to fight for the best thing that we can have. I did support the convention center expansion, the Phase 3 expansion, when it came before the Coastal Commission, and was happy to be there at that day reading a letter of support, which of course was approved unanimously by the Coastal Commissioners. So how would we fund it? To the extent that a lot of the legal questions are resolved over the coming year, depending on other initiatives that may or may not qualify, may or may not be approved by the voters, I think will give us a broader set or answer some questions about what our funding opportunities are. I did support the funding mechanism that was asked for originally, which is currently under court challenge.
Okay, thank you. So small businesses, who are the bulk of our members, about 1,500 of our 25 members, are concerned about minimum wage and the increases that they have trouble. Thank you. I didn't realize I wasn't doing that. They're concerned because there just is another one coming up, and they're having trouble adapting to that. The City of San Diego has a measure on the June 16 ballot to raise the minimum wage to $11.50 an hour. Be the only city in the region to do that. And groups are also collecting signatures to have a statewide increase to $15 an hour placed on the November ballot. Please explain your position on both measures.
Sure, I do support both measures. The idea that we're going to have $11.50 for the city of San Diego is a start, but unfortunately it is not enough for some of our most impacted workers that also want to grow and prosper here in San Diego to be able to make ends meet. You all know this, many of you, and I know this certainly as a young professional, trying to be able to pay our bills, to raise a family, to grow wealth, to be successful and pass that on to the next generation. It's a royal challenge here in San Diego, and so this deeply concerns me. I'm not dismissing altogether some of the needs of our small businesses, and particularly those of the restaurant industry. And I've met with them, and I get their concerns. Would they raise, an $11 burger to $12 to help make ends meet? Probably. So but that $12 burger is then going to be able to be afforded by the people that are able to get out there for an extra evening a month and be able to actually enjoy things that the rest of us are able to enjoy on a pretty regular basis. As far as the statewide initiative, I think it actually takes care of the concern that you addressed, that we would actually have a disparate minimum wage issue, and whether or not businesses would leave San Diego for La Mesa, because it would be implemented across the board. $15 an hour in the state of California is probably more in line with some of the other major metro markets, like Seattle, like New York, which I think New York might even be considering something higher than $15 an hour, but in any case, we've already seen $15 in San Francisco and in San Jose. It's a floor. Were we to go to $15 an hour statewide. I hope not to index it. I'd rather reevaluate what that what the impact is overall economically to both our local and statewide economy. But I think it's a good thing on the whole.
So, the way I approach this minimum wage increase is my father was a neighborhood business owner. And I look at the residents and the business owners along Adams Avenue, along University Avenue, along 5th and 6th Avenue in Bankers Hill, in Little Italy. I look at their businesses and their business models. I do support I do support the ballot initiative because it's phased in over a longer period of time. I believe we need to take a look to see what impacts that has. And then in the future, if we want to put another ballot initiative on the measure, I believe that we should have total compensation as part of that package. A lot of District 3 businesses are restaurants. We have over 1,000 restaurants in District 3. And we got to make sure that those businesses, those restaurants, continue to thrive. So I believe that we need to make sure that the total compensation package is included in that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have actually Christina Chadwick is going to come up and ask some questions on behalf of the downtown Downtown San Diego Partnership.
Good evening, candidates. Thank you for having us. Christina Chadwick here tonight on behalf of the Downtown San Diego Partnership. We're the leading economic development organization and business advocate for the downtown area. We represent more than 350 businesses in downtown and 11,000 property owners. My first question tonight is, what is your position on the current use of resources regarding both homelessness and street crime, and how would you reallocate those resources to address them more effectively?
Great.
Let's go to Anthony.
Thank you. Well, as a resident and one of those parcel owners that you represent, I really appreciate all the things that the partnership has done to making sure that we continue to focus on homelessness. One of the things that I will bring to the table as far as my candidacy for council is that I've been intimately involved with working each and every day with the homeless individuals, not only in downtown, but in Uptown, North Park, Golden Hill, and Normal Heights. And so one of the things that why has this number of homeless individuals been increasing? There's been variables that have changed the game. One is AB 109, which is prison realignment. The other one is Proposition 47, which has reduced the felonies to misdemeanors. Some of those things are creating a different mix of individuals that are now on our streets. But each one of those individuals has a story. They each have a story on how they want to get better, how they want to get out of homelessness. And I believe that we need to make sure that we need to make sure that we work with each one of those individuals. One of the things that I see day in and day out is the mental health aspect, the mental health problem. We've been able to advocate to the county, and we've been able to secure more psychological emergency response team officers to work alongside with the police department. That was one of the things the police department suggested. And if it wasn't for the captain of downtown to continue to advocate for this, I believe that we wouldn't have received it. So we got to work together as residents, as officers, as a partnership to create these collaborative efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Brunel.
So just a quick correction, AB 109, there's actually no evidence to suggest that that's actually contributed to the number of homelessness. And as far as Proposition 47, which this district and the voters across California widely supported, while it's got its policy issues and it has created a certain different kind of individuals that are on our street, it also is inconclusive whether or not it's increased our homelessness. A lot of the problems that we've had are because San Diego is an attractive place to be homeless. People can come here and within the homeless community, and people do talk from region to region. They know that you're not going to freeze if you're from Minnesota. You're not going to cook on the street. If you're from Phoenix, it's a lot easier to find the Greyhound fee and get here to San Diego. And we know this through the work that you've been doing to understand where people are coming from. And many of them do want to get back home. So thank you for the work that you've been doing to help them get back home. But unfortunately, our numbers have continued to have gone up. We have a number of subsets of homeless population, whether you are veterans or whether you have mental health issues, whether you're a victim of domestic violence and you don't have the means as a single mom to be able to make it on your own, whether or not you'd lost your job and you were living paycheck to paycheck. I talked about the minimum wage earlier. So many people are having trouble making ends meet. There's a variety of reasons why these individuals have become homeless. I'm really impressed by the work that Councilman Gloria and others have been doing to form the Regional Continuum of Care, Regional Council Continuum of Care. This is a body that's required to us by federal agencies to form, work with all of our nonprofit partners, and I think there's upwards of 30 that actually provide homeless services and are participating in this to make sure that we're using a lot of our federal resources more effectively, that we are not duplicating efforts, and that we are talking to each other to make sure that the most critical people are the ones that are being cared for and being taken off of the streets.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I'm going to go ahead and let Anthony respond to that. I know both of these candidates, and they're both very civil. I don't think we're going to get to the level of attacks, but I think that's as close as a little disagreement. Do you want to reply to his? Okay, very good. We'll move on to your second question, Christina.
Sure. So question 2, if a similar bill to Assembly Bill 504 is introduced, would you support it or oppose it?
So I would oppose it, and I really applaud the work that Lorena Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, does very actively on behalf of our... I'm sorry. Assembly Bill 504 was a bill that was introduced this year by Assemblywoman Gonzalez that would have, in the way it was written, required a lot of the decision-making by a nonprofit organization to actually be done away with, and some of those powers be retained by only the City Council. And with Civic San Diego, we've actually gotten creative. One of the arguments was that we are doing something in San Diego that no other jurisdiction does statewide. And the way I actually look at that is that we're not actually doing a bad thing there. We actually got creative. In a post-redevelopment world, when we took a lot of the redevelopment money at the state away from local jurisdictions, things are getting a little bit more challenging to implement and develop a lot of the community development needs that you, the citizens, are asking us to do. And Civic has been able to found ways to be able to streamline the process, to be able to permit and develop things at a little bit of a more expedited rate. While I applaud the work that she has done for a lot of our workers, the governor has been very firm in his veto message about the rationale for his veto, that he felt this was an overreach by the state to impact a local decision. I'm not sure how you tweak this bill were to be introduced that would actually satisfy his issues with that veto. So unless we have a new governor, which will be 3 years down the road, or there's some other really very, very different way that they approach that question, I think that we're spinning our wheels and we're going to get everybody frustrated with each other. We're going to have business and labor and everybody else fighting over something that ultimately would probably be vetoed 9 months down the road. I would rather see what Civic has been asking for the last couple of months internally, that they work on those transparency and process questions and reform themselves, because there is work to be done there, and I believe that they can do it.
Thank you, Chris. Anthony?
Yeah, I'll just say really briefly, you did a great job explaining everything, so I don't think I need to explain that again. But I will say that, I support Civic San Diego. Civic San Diego has been a boom for our region. There's been a lot of development. We're in a housing crisis, and they've been able to expedite the process to make sure that things get done on a timely manner. That assures developers and investors to come downtown and to create the environment that we are asking for. I believe that Civic San Diego does need some tweaks and adjustments regarding the memorandum of understanding with the City of San Diego, but I support Civic San Diego.
Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you. The next couple of questions come from LGBT Weekly, and on behalf of LGBT Weekly, I will present those questions. I'm not going to walk over to that microphone because that would just be weird. The Hillcrest Business Association has been an epicenter of some strife between some of the business owners and the leadership there. What, if anything, could you do to ameliorate some of that, to mitigate some of the tension with some of the businesses? If you're not familiar with it, it centers around allegations of insularity and nepotism and cronyism. And I suspect that you might have something to say on that. So let's go with Anthony first.
Yeah. So the Hillcrest Business Association is funded through the business tax. A percentage of the business tax goes into the Business Improvement District. That's how they receive their funding. What I would do is I would encourage those people that have strife or don't feel included to come to the meetings, to engage, and to build relationships. You know, we have business districts in North Park, Adams Avenue, downtown, Little Italy. They're all over the place, and it seems that is a good way for us to make sure that our business districts thrive. I believe that Hillcrest can do the same thing. It's through engagement. We've seen the Gaslamp Corridor Association that has a great membership, is willing to work together with the community, with the residents of downtown, to make sure that things get implemented, and we are all working together. This all takes place through people engaging in the process, holding public meetings, making sure that your voice is heard, and that you are there when decisions are made.
Thank you.
So with the HBA, and I've been to many of their meetings, and I find the board to be actually very responsible to their mission. That's not the case. That's probably not the perspective of 100% of the business owners that are actually subject to that tax and pay in. But hey, you as the voters, I mean, you probably aren't going to agree with 100% of the decisions about the way tax allocations are made by the state or the local or the city or any other jurisdiction. We do our best for the public good to fulfill the missions of whatever entities we are elected to, be they elected official positions or in this case elected board positions too. And that's not to say though that some of the people that have been frustrated with the Hillcrest Business Association's concerns don't warrant merit. They do retain taxes. They are subject to the Brown Act. They do participate in the city's Business Improvement District program. So they do have responsibilities to make sure that everything is being done in an open and transparent way. And where I, as a council member, would respond and act on any allegations or any issues, first of all, I would make sure that my relationships are very strong with the organizations, and they already are, to be able to get in there and say, hey, what is going on here? I'm going to personally attend. Let's see if there's any merit to this. We also need to fully fund the BID Council to make sure that they actually are an umbrella organization. They're very underfunded right now for all of our business improvement districts, and help to streamline some of these issues that individual BIDs are having, and make sure that things are resolved in a very transparent way, because not all allegations actually have merit.
Okay, quick, if I may, a moderator's prerogative. I just want to be clear. You're saying that you're committing to engaging on behalf of someone who says they have a legitimate, if you see that it has merit, you're going to engage with the HBA and attend the next meeting to kind of see what's going on there?
Yes, and I would engage with any constituent that has a really
That's
major
your standard for
issue.
engagement. Okay, I see. Go ahead.
One of the things that I will also say is, if anyone has an issue with any of our city departments, you know, we have an independent city auditor. Our city auditor can look at an organization and determine whether they're following the correct procedures. City attorney can also do that.
Okay.
So making sure that we work with all of the different appointed or elected officials to engage in that process.
Thank you, guys. Sorry to get off script there. We'll get right back on. And this next question may be somewhat pedestrian, if you'll pardon an upcoming pun. Many of the sidewalks in Hillcrest are blighted, and they're blighted with litter and filth and all manner of flotsam and jetsam, if you will. Why is this problem more prevalent in Hillcrest than in other neighborhoods and some other neighborhoods? And what would you do to address it? I think you're first, Anthony.
Okay. Well, so regarding the blight on the sidewalks in Hillcrest, one of the things that we have in downtown is the Business Improvement District, the property-based Business Improvement District. That's where all the residents of downtown pay an extra assessment in order to receive a weekly or sometimes 3 times a week service or on-call when an emergency is needed. One of the things that I want to do as the next city council member for District 3 is increase the level of service across the streets division. Right now, the way we respond to things is on an as-needed basis. If a citizen complains, the streets division or environmental services will go out and address the situation. It's not proactive, it's reactive. And so one of the things that I want to bring to the table is having a proactive, scheduled maintenance of the district. Now, if there's an opportunity and the residents would like a consistent, self-assessed improvement district, then I will work with them to make sure that happens.
Thank you. Chris?
Can you all hear me okay? Is the mic still on? Okay. In Hillcrest in particular, actually, they're looking right now at expanding their maintenance assessment district. Part of that would include new revenues for things like sidewalks. I would take probably issue with your premise. Hillcrest is, all of our sidewalks across the city of San Diego on the whole are failing. There are neighborhoods like San Ysidro and Encanto and others that don't have sidewalks at all. So yes, we have really bad sidewalks. I've come to learn this firsthand because actually I'm a new father and I'm pretty mobile. I've been pretty good, but I didn't really realize how bad everything was until you have to push a stroller down the sidewalks and you hit broken concrete or an uprooted tree. But then that got me thinking, what about the other end of the life spectrum? What if I was had mobility challenges? What if I was in a wheelchair? And so this is definitely something that I know is going to need a strong commitment from our next council member. Like any other infrastructure issue, I want to make sure that we're doing the most that we can with the limited dollars that we have. And part of that is not just going in there and fixing one piece of the sidewalk as a citizen complains or as a resident is able to fund that, but finding out a way to holistically replace entire blocks at one stretch to be able to get more bang for your buck for the linear feet that we're trying to replace for those broken sidewalks. The cities has a program right now, if you're a resident, I talked about how the businesses can maybe find additional revenue, but you can actually have a city match on a certain level so that if you, the resident, put in a little bit for your sidewalk to be repaired, the city will match that. That constantly gets exhausted because too many people are taking advantage of that. So these are working programs that are helping to solve the issue of sidewalks, and I would like to see invest more in what we know already works.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. All right, so next up we have from the North Park Community Association, Edwin Lohr, who is president. Mr. Lohr.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Edwin Lohr, the president of the North Park Community Association, home of North Park, the 13th hippest community in the country, according to Forbes. I had to get that in. Gentlemen, I've got a couple questions from you. My first question is, as San Diego's urban center, District 3 neighborhoods tend to be built more densely than anywhere else. What do you want the district to look like a generation from now, and what will you do to shape the area's development?
So a generation from now is probably about the time span that we're looking for a lot of the community plan updates that North Park and Uptown, Golden Hill, and other neighborhoods across the city of San Diego are engaging right now. And that's something that I've personally been active as a member of Uptown Planners to make sure that a lot of the community input, this unfortunately has taken too long, 7 years for our the cluster of our 3 neighborhoods, but we're almost there. It's going to be we're hoping that it'll be passed next year. So your next council member will be responsible for implementing that plan. And as somebody that's been involved in those conversations and organically tried to make sure that what we want to see in the vision happen, what vision we want to see for our neighborhoods, I'm ready to make sure that vision is honored. I'll make sure that new development proposals that come back are consistent with the community plan. There's a lot of areas for growth that make sense, that help us meet some of our smart growth needs and the city of San Diego's general plan as a whole. There are other parts of the district that are very much single-family residential, and that is projected to continue over the next 30 years. So I think you're going to see growth. I know you're going to see growth and development occur where it makes sense, where we can tie it into infrastructure and transportation improvements. And I think that you're going to see your next council member work on a well-blended regard for the preserving the parts of the neighborhood that retain the historical character that make us so special.
Well, first of all, we want to make sure we complete and approve the community plan updates. That's really the guiding document for the growth in the future generations of where we want to go. I'll tell you that we got to make sure that we take a look at our transportation corridors, the mobility aspects in these community plan updates. We got to make sure we account for walking, bicycling, mass transit, as well as our own vehicles and cars. One of the things that I see in the different areas is we want to make sure that we add additional housing units for our core. One of the unique aspects of the Uptown neighborhood is that we have some hospitals there. Where do we want to see growth and development to be able to have people live, work, and play in the Uptown neighborhood? Where can we see that in North Park? What assets do we have there? How do we want to make sure that North Park ties into downtown? And then downtown, we have East Village, Little Italy. I've been going door to door for the past 15 weeks now, and one of the things that residents, whether you're in Mission Hills or North Park or Normal Heights, have told me is they want their neighborhood to be like Little Italy. And I believe that we can do that if we do it correctly, if we follow the community plan updates that the community has been working on for the past 6 years.
Thank you, candidates.
Is there a parking problem in District 3? Do we have too much or too little? How would you influence the balance between competing automobiles, bikes, walking, and transit priorities?
We're going to assume that there were semicolons in there, so it'll be one big question. Anthony, go ahead.
So raise your hand if you walked here. Good. That's great. My wife and I walked here from downtown, and I will tell you that we do have a parking problem, but it's a behavioral change. It's a behavioral modification. We got to make sure that we work with residents to make sure we are able to say our parking is not the best. There are alternative modes of transportation, whether you Uber, whether you're young enough to still bike. There are ways to get around in the future. But we got to make sure that we continue to provide options, mobility options for our individuals, and making sure that there is an opportunity to increase the parking inventory where it's acceptable. And we've done that in North Park with the community parking garage.
So, agree. We do have a parking problem in the district, in all the neighborhoods, whether you're in Hillcrest. Little Italy just got a little better with the county administration building opening up their employee parking center, now open to the general public after hours. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to shift our vision. And one of the really critical votes that actually took place this year was the Sandags Regional Transportation Plan that sets out the vision for the next 30 years regionally across all the cities of San Diego, and where we're going to actually prioritize those hundreds of millions of dollars into future transportation options. A lot of the mass transit and public transit opportunities were proposed to be sort of backloaded, sort of towards the end of that 40 to 50 year time horizon. I would want to see, as a member or a representative for an urban district, a reprioritization on regional bodies like that, because that's how we're really going to see very fast change, is making sure that where the big dollars are, where we can actually start to improve our infrastructure here on the ground, that we are fighting for those kinds of values, that we can express that and get those tens, if not hundreds of million dollars put right back into the community, because we're not going to build a whole lot of parking structures, but we are going to see the growth. And we do want our small businesses to succeed. So I think the way that we're going to do that is to be able to make sure that we can get people in and around the district in a much more efficient way, and that's mass transit solutions.
Thank you for those thoughtful questions and answers. Next up is the Hillcrest Town Council Chair, and that's Luke Terpstra. Luke, are you here?
Okay, where are the teleprompters? Can you hear me, Robert? All right. Okay, shameless plug. My name is Luke Terpstra. I'm the chair of the Hillcrest Town Council. Our mission is to give the residents of Hillcrest a voice so that everyone can be heard on issues of the day. We meet on the second Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. at Joyce Beers Community Center in the Hub on University Avenue. You can ask questions, make comments, and even join our email list for monthly newsletters at hillcresttowncouncil.com. Please join the conversation and be a part of the dialogue that looks for solutions. Question number 1. What is your position on Councilmember Mark Kersey's plan to upgrade and repair the infrastructure of the city of San Diego?
So, very interesting. It was just released last week. On first glance, I'm not a big fan, I think, a lot of the proposal. There's no new revenue there. And when we think about upwards of a $5 billion backlog that we have in the city of San Diego, moving the money around between pots of money that are already going to be coming into the city of San Diego over the next 20 to 30 years, doesn't actually increase the rate at which we can make a difference in our communities that we need to see now. For example, it comes from three areas, and in the interest of time, I'll just give you the first. A portion of the sales tax, the natural growth in sales tax that we'll see over the coming 30 years is going to be set aside for infrastructure improvements. But by his own analysis, he notes that for the first couple of years, it might amount to another $8 million a year. Now, I know $8 million is a lot to you and me, but to the operations of the city of San Diego, it probably paves a few roads in Rancho Bernardo. So we really need serious investment. I like where Corey Briggs and Donna Fry's plan is, and I haven't formed a final position on that, but that's the kind of idea and the kind of leadership that we're looking at for actual new revenue, upwards of $90 million or more for the city to actually invest back into the infrastructure. I'm disappointed that a lot of the work that has been had through the infrastructure committee that we've been talking about, possibly a mega bond, approaching Sandag to be a part of their quality of life initiative, an additional quarter-cent sales tax, having that come back into the neighborhood. A lot of that might be put to the side for a plan like this. This is money already coming into the city of San Diego that the council members, and that's not to say that I can't spend that $8 million next year and make a decision to build 3 new roads, but these are decisions that we are going to have to be, that are incumbent on us to act on your behalf, in addition to all the other public safety and other priorities that are out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Councilmember Kersey, I do not support that initiative because it's too long of 30 years. Where are we going to be in 30 years? And the other part to it is it locks that money in. I think as council members, we should prioritize those initiatives that come forward. What I would support is an initiative that goes forward that creates new revenue. Chris is right. We have a $5 billion infrastructure problem. If we're not able to sit down and to figure out where we can increase some revenue to address our sidewalks, our streets, our street lights, our stormwater management systems, we need to make sure that we look at our neighborhoods and increase also the facilities in our neighborhoods, whether they're police departments, whether they're fire departments, whether they're the recreation center. We need to make sure that we create a better San Diego, and the way we're going to do that is investing in our neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I agree. I'm looking forward to the future.
Did you want to ask your second? Okay.
Sure.
Thought you might.
Hillcrest has no park, recreation center, pool, senior center, or library yet. What will you do to help Hillcrest get some of these amenities that most other communities enjoy?
Well, parks are paid for through general fund, developer impact fees. Those are the basic way that parks are paid for. And one of the things that I've been hearing going door to door is, you're right, Hillcrest doesn't have a park. They usually use Balboa Park. And I will tell you that there's an opportunity along Normal Street to create some sort of walking space and looking to acquire a parcel of land to create a community park. I've been working alongside, I've been working for some time to try to establish a library for the Hillcrest neighborhood. And thanks to the San Diego Library Foundation, as well as the leadership of Councilmember Todd Gloria, we hope to break ground on the library for Hillcrest Mission Hills in the summer of next year.
So I mentioned earlier the community plan update work that's being done, not just in Uptown, but some of the other neighborhoods in District 3. We actually do have some potential park sites that are identified. We could do more work to get out there in the next 10 years to see if there's even more opportunities, depending on the city's fiscal health, whether or not we can invest some of that money. Again, if that decision making is left to the council members instead of the ballot box, we can actually fight for those dollars and make sure they're reinvested right back into our neighborhoods. So we do know some potential sites. Those need to be explored. I think that there's some good news on the horizon for Hillcrest in areas like Normal Street and a couple of other pocket park areas, but we are built out. It's going to be difficult to, and that land value is very, very pricey, given some of the zoning requirements that are on there right now. So to the extent that we can get creative and make sure that other plazas, other kinds of public open spaces are created, whether we have to go up and we're able to create some maybe second or third floor opportunities, those are the kinds of creative ideas that I look forward to pursuing.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Terpstra.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Luke. All right, next up, we have Michelle Trimble, who is Executive Director of the Gas Lamp Quarter Association. Michael, sorry, Michael.
Good evening. Michael Trimble, Executive Director, Gaslamp Quarter. Gentlemen, candidates, thank you for having me. Mr. Sanders asked my first question, and you guys handled that stellar on minimum wage. So here's our question. Earlier this year, an attempt to increase fees on entertainment permit holders was met with strong resistance. We recognize the need to enhance and add resources for PD and first responders downtown. But do you believe it is possible without exorbitant fee increases?
First, Chris.
Absolutely, it's possible. And actually, some of the requirements that are put on some of our establishments to obtain an entertainment permit in the first place, I think, are a little extreme. If you're a coffee shop in North Park or some other part of the district that wants to have an acoustic guitar hour, you're subject to that, and those fees are pretty exorbitant. And that's really an impact to, I think, some of the opportunities that we can have for a very pleasurable and low volume entertainment opportunity right there in the neighborhoods. So I do oppose that. I don't want to increase fees on top of fees to be able to provide some of the entertainment opportunities that make these really great neighborhoods to be in and enjoy, to work, play, and live in. So that would be sort of the foundation for my perspective on that.
So the City Council has a policy to make sure every service that we provide is cost recoverable. But I will tell you that I would be opposed to any additional fees for entertainment permits. I have experience working with the industry and making sure that we try to reduce some of the cost. When it comes to one of the issues that I worked on in the past was the sidewalk ordinance. Restaurants were not able to allow people to sit on their sidewalks and have dinner. The only way they could do that is through a conditional use permit, and that fee was about $10,000. There were several businesses that approached us, and we were able to work with them to reduce that fee from that $10,000 to about $2,000. So I continue to look forward to working with Gaslamp Quarter Association as well as other people who have solutions on how to make our neighborhoods even better.
Thank you. Do you have a second question that you might want to?
Like I said, Mr. Sanders stole my thunder. So we'll get you guys out a little early today.
Thank you,
So
Michael.
thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Well, we have done an amazing and remarkable job of staying right on schedule. So we're going to just wrap it up there. Thank you so much to everyone. And thanks again to the Old Globe Theater and to the San Diego Police Officers Association for making this debate possible. Thank you. Sorry, can we get I went off script again. If you'd like to hear the closing statements, I highly recommend. So sorry. Oh my God. You can all beat me up in the outside as soon as we're out of here. Let's hear first from. Do you guys? Let's go with Chris first.
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody, thank you again so much for coming out on a night in December to hear a little bit about it. You know, we only have 6 months to go before the election, and when you back out the holidays and you back out the month of May, which a lot of absentee voters are already making up their minds, we're going to be in a marathon sprint next year. So I'm really appreciated that a lot of the voters have maintained a lot of patience up until this point. We've had a lot of special elections that we need not go through again that the district has had to been faced with. But coming January of next year, we're going to have a really critical decision about whom you elect as a council member to be able to take this district forward. And I'm very excited for the work that I've done in the community. I believe I'm very intimately and well prepared to be able to provide a lot of that strong leadership that Christine Kehoe, Tony Atkins, Todd Gloria have set forward for this district. I know that Christine and Tony do support me because they've seen me out in the community. They know that I share those values, and I'm really excited to be able to implement not just the progressive vision that I think is important for District 3, but all the things that the community is going to ask me to do on their behalf. Make sure that we fight for our funding, that we provide not just sexy streets, but clean canyons and safe sidewalks, an economy that works for everybody. And I'm really excited for the opportunity to continue that conversation throughout the election season next year. It starts today, but I would appreciate your support. If you're interested in joining our campaign outside the lobby area, I'll be happy to talk to you a little bit after this tonight. There's a lot of ways that you can get involved. Thank you all again for your attention. Have wonderful holidays ahead, and we'll see you in 2016.
Chris, as my mea culpa here, do you want to give your website? I'll let you both do that. What's
Sure. My website is www.voteforward.com.
Thank you so much for sticking around as we give our closing statements. I would, well, first of all, I'd like to thank my wife for being here. I better not forget mentioning my wife for being here and allowing me to do this whole campaign run. Anyways, I just want to, first of all, we're about 26 weeks until the primary. And I want to tell you that in these 26 weeks, you know, knocking on those doors, talking to the residents, and back in 2012, when Councilmember Todd Gloria first was reelected, we had a conversation, and he's been encouraging this entire time, along with the residents. I go to every neighborhood, and a lot of those residents have said, Anthony, you know, I'm here to support you. Whatever you need, I'll be there for you. And so I believe that my City Hall experience is one of the things that that has been really one of those motivating factors for me. The City Hall experience to be able to get the job done on day one. I believe that we as a community could really make sure that we make a big difference in our infrastructure, in our homelessness issues. I believe right now City Hall is on the right track. We have restored our credit rating. We have slurry sealed miles of roads, and we have are tracking our homelessness epidemic. There's still more progress to be made. I hope to serve you as the next city council member of District 3. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anthony. Since I prematurely thanked our venue and our sponsor, the San Diego Police Officers Association, so I'd like also just to thank the sponsors, who were the Downtown Partnership, San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, North Park Community Association, Hillcrest Town Council, the Gaslamp Quarter Association, and LGBT Weekly. Thank you very much.